Yes.
Okay, ladies, thank you for attending our first Red Tent Goddess Academy and Red Tent Goddess Sisterhood Goddess Connection Circle. And the purpose of doing this circle is basically to give you a little moment to get to know a different goddess. So my idea was to do a different goddess every month. Um, a goddess that is relevant to women, relevant to especially modern women, right? And that we can not only get to know the goddess, but get to know the goddess and get to know how this goddess can make a difference in your life, right? So each one of the goddesses that we're selecting for these circles are goddesses that are beautiful goddesses. They have beautiful energy. They either can help you with shadow work, or they can help you with inspiration, with connecting to self-love, or with connecting to the love of other people. There's always something that they can give you and that they can share with you. And it's just a matter of getting to know them, connecting to their beautiful energy, whether it's through journeying, meditation, ritual, or simply just learning about the goddess and honoring her in your life in whichever way is possible for you. So, to kick off our circle, I thought the perfect goddess to do this with is the goddess Brighid. So, who is the goddess Brighid? Brighid is a Celtic goddess, and she is my matron goddess. I am a priestess of Brighid, and I have dedicated my life to Brighid. I work with many goddesses, but Brighid is very, very special to me. And I hope she will be part of a very special repertoire of goddesses for all of you, because she is very special and she is a goddess that can help you in many different arenas. So I wanted to, first of all, introduce you to Brighid for those of you that are not familiar with her. And I have a little PowerPoint that I want to show you just so you can have a little visual, right? A couple of pictures of what she looks like, a little information about her. And then I'm going to talk about a little ritual that you can do to connect further with her and for her to help you with inspiration. Okay, because that is one of her domains, is the goddess of inspiration. So Marlu, if you would be so kind as to start it for me. And by the way, welcome to Brooke. Welcome, Brooke. And all the ladies that I am not familiar with, Maria and Nelly. Welcome to all of you. And of course, welcome to our other ladies like Donna, Jaslyn, Claudia, Marlu, and other ladies. I'm trying to see all the pictures because it's a little hard on my phone. But welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for being here. So this is just.
Lisa, would you like to tell them a little bit about who you are?
Yes.
Your role in the academy?
Great. Yes. Thank you. Okay. Full disclosure here, ladies, I'm a little nervous. It's the first time that we do this, so bear with me. Bear with me. So I am the Red Tent Goddess Priestess Instructor, Lead Priestess. My name is Lisette Lopez. I am a Reiki Master, Akashic Records Reader. I've been for the past 20 years. I am a past life regressionist, mental health counselor, and trauma therapist, a certified spiritual life coach, priestess of the goddess, and priestess of Brighid. Teacher at Red Tent Kids, which is a wonderful program that we have just recently kickstarted to help your children get a little more involved in spirituality and have a spiritual background. So we just kickstarted that. I'm co-founder of Peace and Wisdom Spiritual Workshops, and along with my other co-founder, which is Marlu, who's helping me now with the PowerPoint. And she's also my co-facilitator in the priestess program, and she is the leader of the enchantress program, which is the other part of our Red Tent Goddess Academy. We have two programs, the enchantress and the priestess program. Once again, I'm lead priestess and facilitator of Red Tent Goddess Academy priestess program and co-facilitator of the enchantress program. Thank you, Brooke, for coming. Appreciate it. So who is the goddess Brighid? Okay, so here's an interesting picture that shows three the goddess Brighid in three sides of her, and I'll explain that in a moment. But basically, she is the goddess of healing, smithcraft, poetry and inspiration, protection of the hearth, the home. She's a protectress of animals. She is the goddess of wisdom, prophecy, and divination for the Celts, for Ireland, Scotland, England, and all the Celtic lands. She's a goddess of hospitality, childbearing and midwives, and keening. And I'll explain what keening is in a moment, but she is said to have invented keening or discovered keening. She is the epitome of the gifts that women offer. The best illustration of her status in the history of Ireland is the folk tradition, and I love this tradition, that says that Brighid spread out her green mantle over all her beloved country of Ireland, and it turned into the Emerald Island. So it says that when Brighid extended her beautiful green cloak, Ireland became Ireland. So it's one of the legends of Brighid. Okay, so reason why there's a picture of three, as you can see here. So they say that Brighid, and this is the interesting thing when you learn about different goddesses, they say that Brighid is three sisters in one. We have that also with other goddesses in the Celtic pantheon. So for example, the Morrigan, which is another goddess that we will cover in another circle, she is also a Celtic goddess that is said to be a 3-in-1 goddess, meaning that's three sisters that make up one goddess. So that's very common, that the idea of triplicity. And Brighid is said to be three sisters in one. So it's one goddess, but it's almost like three aspects of Brighid. One that is the healer, one that is the smithcraft and the builder, and the other one is the goddess of inspiration, poetry, and the home. And so all together, they make up the goddess Brighid with all of her different abilities. So that's one of the stories of why we sometimes picture Brighid in three forms. If you can go to the next slide for me.
Oh, you were going to mention what keening is?
Oh, keening, yes. Okay, so keening, thank you, Mardu. So keening is basically the goddess Brighid had a son, her only son, and he died in a war. This is when Brighid had an earthly life, okay, and later on was considered a goddess. She raised to goddess status. When she had an earthly life, she had a son who passed away. He passed away in the middle of a battle. And she was so hurt and so, I mean, her grief was so intense to have lost her only son that they say that she would wail. And her wailing, the way that she cried and the way that she wailed, it was almost like a song. It was almost like music. It was like the sound of they compare it to an animal that's wailing and at the same time a song. And so that the concept of grieving to that extreme is called keening, and it's almost like an art form in certain circles, and it's very common, like whale songs, right? Thank you. Yes. So it was a very intense kind of grief, and it's very common in Ireland and in Scotland and other parts of the United Kingdom, where when someone passes away, they have certain songs they sing. There's poetry that sometimes is read, and there's like a type of grieving process that is kind of equal to this process of keening. And so keening means, it means different things for different people. But if you've ever heard of the concept of a banshee, which is like a folk tale that when a person dies, you hear like almost like a wailing, a grieving wailing sound that is heard in the distance, and they say that that's a banshee. That concept came originally from Brighid, and then it's also been associated to other goddesses like Carrie Wen and the Morrigan. So it depends on what part of the United Kingdom you're in. They see it in different ways, but really the credit was always given to Brighid as being the one that started keening. So it's a very interesting thing. And if you ever have an opportunity to go to a Irish wake, it's usually a lot of music and dancing and like a celebration of life kind of thing, but it is, in a way, it's a type of keening where the grief is so intense that it's almost done in the form of music, poetry, inspiration. It's like pouring out your emotions in a very intense manner, if that makes sense. So that's a type of keening. So wanted to mention that, since that's something that is very much associated to Brighid. In this picture, I show a pregnant Brighid because she's the goddess of midwives and childbearing. She's also a healer. So she's a goddess of healing. If you want to connect to a goddess that helps you with healing, Brighid is your lady. And not to mention, if you are pregnant or considering having a child, she blesses women that are in the process of getting pregnant or throughout their pregnancy, and also the goddess of midwives. So if you're a doula, if you're a birth doula or a death doula, I want to mention she also blesses death doulas and the whole process of dying because of the keening of her son. She's very associated with death in that way, death as in a healing process. So goddess that rules over doulas and protects doulas of all kinds and women in childbirth. You can go to the next slide for me. So she's also the goddess of smithcraft. So people that invoke this goddess were people that made swords, shields, helmets, or other metals. In modern times, the people that would invoke Brighid as a goddess of smithcraft would be jewelers. Anyone that makes things. If you make things with your hands, if you are deeply into technology, manufacturing, doing things like a lot of people that like to do arts and crafts, all of this is the domain of Brighid, the aspect of Brighid as smithcraft, the creator, the maker, who makes things from nothing. So this is a beautiful aspect of Brighid. Can go to the next slide for me. So Brighid is also a goddess, once again, of poetry, wisdom, and inspiration. She's a great goddess to connect to when you want to write, when you want to be inspired to create. If you like to do artwork of any kind and you want a goddess that fills you with inspiration to take the next step, Brighid is a great goddess to call on. She's also the goddess of wells. So if you've ever seen pictures of Ireland, you realize that there are wells everywhere, lots and lots of wells. Wells are very sacred to Brighid, even though she's considered a solar goddess, and I'll talk about that in a moment. She's also very associated to the element of water and wells, and so wells are sacred to her. A lot of people will get close to the anything that has to do with bodies of water, especially when we're talking about lakes, ponds, and wells. And they say that if you say a prayer to Brighid and take pieces of cloth and dip them in these wells or in a river or in a lake, you can take that with you and say a prayer, and that will connect you to the aspect of Brighid that is very healing. When we think of healing, we think of water. That's one of the elements that we connect to when we think of healing. We also think of fire because fire is very cleansing. So this is one of the beautiful aspects of Brighid, that she's got a side to her that is all fire and very solar. She's the goddess of the sun. She is the goddess that was born at the dawn. So we say that when the sun comes up, Brighid comes up, right? She's associated to the sun. So very much a fire goddess, goddess of the hearth and the home, right? But she's also a healing goddess in her aspect of water associated to well. So that's why I wanted to show a picture of her carrying a pitcher to show you that aspect of her that is very healing. You can go to the next slide for me. So here I want to point out how she is a goddess of animals, and animals are very sacred to Brighid, and also of the hearth. As you can see here, in Celtic homes, especially during Celtic times, the center of the home was the hearth. Wherever there was fire, there people gathered. People gathered there to eat, people gathered there to keep warm. And that was really where the home was considered a home. A home was not considered a home unless it had a hearth. Okay. Yes, she is correct, Maria. She's perfect in her duality, water and fire. It's exactly. She's one of the reasons why I chose her as our goddess to start off our connection circle is because she has so many beautiful layers. And she's just such a perfect example of the divine feminine. She really is. And just like she is the goddess of the hearth and the home, she blesses your own home and your own hearth if you ask her to step in and bless your home. So that's one of the beautiful ways to connect to Brighid is through the house, through the home. Whenever you cook, whenever you do something, even as simple as make a pot of tea or a pot of coffee, you are connecting to that element of Brighid that is very much not only fire, but the coziness of the home. I show her here with a buffalo, right? Looks like a buffalo. Yes, it's a buffalo. So she has.
It's an ox.
Oh,
no?
it's an ox. I'm sorry. For some reason, I thought it was a buffalo. Yeah. So buffaloes and oxes, cows, these are all animals that are very sacred to Brighid. She is connected to farm animals very much. If you can imagine that the people, the Celtic people were people that were very much in tune with the land, right? Melanie mentions a highland cow. Yes. So in the highlands, you have a lot of farm animals, a lot of cows. Butter is something very associated to Brighid because of cows, milk as well. And I'll talk about that in a moment. Different ways that you can offer connecting to Brighid through offerings. If you can go to the next slide for me. So I want to talk a moment about Saint Brighid. Okay, so this is interesting. Oh, so Brooke got to milk a cow when she was in Ireland. It was wild. Oh, that's so cool. Never had an opportunity to milk a cow, but I know that if I ever do, I'm offering it to Brighid. That's for sure, because that's one of her animals. So Saint Brighid, her feast day is February the 2nd. One of the ways that Christianity wove its way into the hearts and minds of the original people was by adopting their ancient gods and goddesses and festivals in order to more easily convert them without bloodshed. So we went from Goddess Brighid to Saint Brighid. So there is a Saint Brighid that, and it's interesting because there's a lot of debate whether Saint Brighid actually existed as a person, like an actual person, who we call Saint Brighid, or if it was the actual goddess Brighid that the Catholic Church at the time adopted, the goddess Brighid and turned her into Saint Brighid in order to be able to fully convert the Irish people, once again, without bloodshed. That was very common at that time. They would try to make that transition the best they could, because the interesting thing was when the Irish became Christian and were no longer fully pagan, they would not let go of Brighid. They said, we won't let go of our goddess. And so that's where history comes in. And I and I strongly believe from all the research I've done that there may have been someone named after her, but it seems like the kind of attributes that they gave to Saint Bridget was really more attributes of the goddess that was passed on to Saint Bridget in order for the Irish to be able to continue connecting to their goddess, but in the form of a saint, and therefore not have to let her go completely, but incorporate her into Christianity. So a lot of people connect to Bridget through Saint Bridget versus the goddess Bridget. So it really depends on how you would view this. If you tend to connect more to the goddess pagan side, you would be more connected to the goddess. If you are a pagan that is also Christian, or what we call Christo-pagan, then you might be able to make the bridge between the goddess and the saint. Personally, in my practice, I have pictures of Saint Bridget and I have pictures of the goddess Bridget. I see them as one and the same, and that's just my view of her. The groups that I belong to, we're all devotees of Bridget. We kind of look at both of them as kind of like one and the same. So we connect to, both aspects of Bridget, because to me, Bridget is Bridget, right? So it's just different ways of viewing her, is how I see her. Her Bridget's sacred day is invoke, which is an actual Celtic holiday, also connected to a lot by neo-pagans of all kinds, and druids, and different communities that connect to the divine feminine and connect to gods and goddesses. And it's really the first, I would say, the first stirrings of spring, when spring is starting to show its signs of happening. That here in the United States, we call it Groundhog Day. So if you can remember, like Groundhog Day, and we wait for the groundhog to show its shadow and that kind of thing. So this all comes from the idea of the first signs of spring, which is invoke. And that is Bridget's sacred day, which falls on February 2nd. And some people also connect to her through February the 1st. So it depends on what part of the world you're in. Some people say February 1st, some people say February 2nd. But regardless, both days are considered part of invoke. And that is a holy day for Bridget, both as a saint and as a goddess. You can go to the next slide for me. Flame keeping. So I want to mention that one of the ways we connect to Bridget, and this is a way that I connect to her, is called flame keeping. So there was a perpetual flame known as Bridget's fire, and it burned in the city of Kildare. Kildare is in Ireland. It was a pre-Christian time. In Ireland, pre-Christian times, we invoked the goddess Bridget to protect the herds and provide a fruitful harvest. And what it was is Bridget had 19 sacred priestesses that each would take turns starting off. A fire was started, and then each priestess was in charge of keeping that flame going. And for 19 days, 19 women would keep this fire going. And they say that on the 20th day, Bridget herself would continually light this flame. And it was considered a miracle because on the 20th day, there was nobody there to light the fire and keep it going. And yet the fire would continue no matter if it was raining, no matter if it was snowing, there was always a fire burning. So they say Bridget burned it herself on the 20th day. This was during Celtic times, when Bridget was very much connected to as a goddess. When Ireland became Christian, this was transferred over to the nuns that were started by Saint Bridget. So Saint Bridget continued this practice with her nuns in her convent at Kildare, and therefore there were 19 nuns that would continue to burn the flame. And on the 20th day, Saint Bridget was said to burn the flame herself. So she continued this practice. And this practice continued all the way till like medieval times. So we're talking like toward, I believe it was like the 1600, that then the convent at Kildare had been closed, down. And then it was closed for various centuries until recently, now in the 20th century, it got started again. So there was a group of people that wanted to continue this tradition, and they started the flame keeping tradition. And now there are places you can do this on the internet. I personally am a member of 2 virtual groups that we do flame keeping for Brighid. So I am a flame keeper for her, and I keep a flame burning for her for 24 hours every 19 days, or every 20 days, in other words. And I do this for 2 separate groups. So this is another way to connect to her. And it's a beautiful practice, because they say that by connecting to Brighid this way, her energy and her aura infuses your home, infuses your life, and you have the constant protection of the goddess with you as the fire continues to burn. So it's a really beautiful practice. Brighid loves devotees of all kinds, and she blesses flame keepers because we keep her energy going. So this is another beautiful way to connect with her. You can go to the next slide for me. So here I wanted to highlight some sacred symbols and animals that are very connected to Brighid. Her sacred flower is the snowdrop. The snowdrop is a beautiful flower that is seen at the very beginning of spring. So it's a flower that grows in winter, but usually around the time of February 1st, February 2nd, in parts of Ireland and Scotland, and in different parts around the United Kingdom and in Europe, you will see these flowers kind of come up from the ground, and they're called snowdrops. Believe they have them here in the US as well, but they're very sacred to Brighid, and it's a symbol of Brighid. The triquetra and the triskel are 2 ancient Celtic symbols that are very connected to both Brighid and the Morrigan, another goddess that is rumored to be Brigid's mother. So was one of those interesting lore of Ireland that say that that the Morrigan could be her mother. The Dagda is supposed to be her father, and the Dagda is what we call the all father for the Celts. So he is like the ruling god, the one that is kind of, if you've studied a little bit of Greek mythology, or if you remember like Zeus being the head of all the gods for the Greeks, the Dagda is the head of all the gods for the Celts. So kind of that energy. Brigid's cross, that symbol is supposed to be a very sacred symbol that symbolizes Brighid. And it's interesting because it's associated very closely to Saint Brighid, but also to the goddess herself. So whether you follow Saint Brighid or you follow the Celtic goddess Brighid, the Brighid cross is very sacred. And in Imbolc, it's a custom to put this cross on your home in order to have the energy and the blessings of the goddess to come into your home. So this is used a lot. It's a craft that can be done to make a Brighid cross, and then hang it in your home. And you can make this from twigs, you can make this from leaves. What do you call those? Sorry, I can't think of the word, but it's straw. You can make it from straw.
From palm fronds too.
Oh, thank you. The word wasn't coming to me. Thank you. Wheat, yes, palm fronds, wheat. Thank you, Melanie. Thank you. Exactly. So it's a corn husks. Yes, there's many different ways of making it, but it's a beautiful symbol of Brighid, and very, very, very protective symbol of Brighid. The owl is also one of her animals, very associated to Brighid, is the owl. Owl for wisdom, owl for intelligence, inspiration. It's one of the things that Brighid gives to us. The snake. So Brighid is very connected to snakes. The snake is an animal that is very, very connected to not just Brighid. There's many goddesses that the snake is one of their symbols. The snake is very connected to the divine feminine, to the goddess in general. So a lot of people think that the snake is a horrible animal, and they're very fearful of the snake. But in reality, the spiritual side of a snake is actually, it's an animal that has to do with rebirth. It sheds its skin and it gets new skin. So it's that kind of death rebirth type of an energy that is extremely sacred to all goddesses, to all divine feminines. And Brighid, it's very sacred to Brighid. It's a very beautiful animal. And it's just a mindset. Sometimes when we think of a snake, we think evil, but if you are connected to goddesses like Brighid, you start to see the snake in a different way. The snake is also a very protective energy once you connect to it as a spirit animal. So I want to just point that out about the snake. Many goddesses, you'll see statues of goddesses that have snakes, even statues of Mary, like the Virgin Mary in Christianity, she is standing over a snake. So there's always a connection of snakes, if you've noticed, with a lot of goddesses. Once again, here's a picture of a Ali says probably why they use the animal as evil to put people away from the goddess. Yes, exactly. So a lot of times, right, we make snakes like snakes are evil, snakes are bad, like that. The idea of snakes being evil is very common because as you connect to the idea of snakes being evil, you connect away from the goddess. So that's something that was very common patriarchal times, still unfortunately common today. But if we can look beyond that, we can see the beauty of the snake and how the snake is not necessarily always considered an evil symbol. And here we have once again a picture of an ox. So oxes, cows, farm animals, anything that gives milk, butter. If you think farm, you think Brighid, very much in tune to that type of animal. And then the swan. So the swan is one of her birds, the owl and the swan. So swans are very common in pictures of Brighid and iconographies of Brighid. We see swans, very sacred to her. You can go to the next slide for me, Marlu. How to honor the goddess Brighid. Okay, so here I just put some couple of things that you can do to really connect to her. By flame keeping, which is what I mentioned before, the bare minimum is to keep a flame lit in her honor once every 20 days. You can light a candle to her really every day. Like if you want to be able to connect to her energy, you can light a candle in your home. You can light it in your kitchen if you want to like see her in the aspect of the goddess of the hearth or the home. But flame keeping is also another way, a really beautiful way to connect to her. You can connect to her on invoke, on her sacred day. There's so many different traditions of ways to honor her on invoke, which is once again February 1st and 2nd. And you can also find your way to do meditations to her, journeys, prayer. There's many prayers that you can use to connect to her in her different aspects. Contemplation, which is just sitting quietly and connecting to the goddess. Journaling, it's a wonderful thing to be able to journal and connect to her in a journaling manner where you can ask her and have a conversation with the goddess using journaling. And then there's rituals that you can do in her honor. So I have a ritual that I just want to briefly talk about and share with you guys, a way to connect to her in a really special way. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so this is a ritual to Brighid for inspiration. So you're going to want to have Brighid oil or lavender. So lavender is one of the flowers that's very sacred to Brighid. Lavender, another oil that you can use is blackberry. The fruit of the blackberry is very sacred to Brighid. You will see that a lot of perfumes, oils, and ritual wines and drinks that were offered to Brighid had a lot of blackberry. That's one of those fruits. Number one, it grows in cold weather. So it's very associated to Brighid, and not only cold weather, but when the weather is going from winter, slowly going into spring, that's the time when we see a lot of blackberries. So that's why that particular fruit's very sacred to her. So we can use lavender oil or Brighid oil, which is made with blackberry, 3 candles, and it could be votives, tapers, 7 days. It's up to you. 3 red candles if possible. Okay, if you don't have red candles, you can always use white. White is always a substitute for any colored candle in rituals. A pinch of cinnamon. Cinnamon is another very sacred spice to her. There's lots of goddesses that are very connected to cinnamon. Cinnamon has a lot to do with love and that connection of that spiritual connection of wisdom, intuition, and also love. So cinnamon is used a lot with goddesses. You can use a chime candle. Yes, Ali, definitely. You can use a chime candle or a votive taper, or you can even use a tea light if you want. Preferably, if you can use a smaller candle, only because you want to let the candles burn out, like burn completely. So unless you want to do this type of ritual for several days, then you can use a 7-day candle. That's always an option. You want to take a small portion of the oil with the cinnamon, okay? Set your sacred space, spend a few moments in silence, okay? And you can, whatever tradition you follow, if you want to call quarters and cast a circle around you, or you just want to declare that you're in sacred space, you can smudge your area or anoint the area with any kind of incense or palo santo or whatever you like to use to clear your areas. You can use dragon's blood. There's many different ways that you can clear your area to prepare it to do a ritual. And then what you want to do is you want to hold the candle with the base of the candle touching your heart. Anoint the candle with the oil mixture. Start at the wick and then anoint the rest of the candle. Put it towards you, and then you say, Brighid, inspire my heart. So you want to put the candle close to your heart, like to touch your heart, okay? Then you take the second candle. This time you do the same. You take the base of the candle and you put it toward your throat. And you anoint it the same way you did with the first one, and you say, Brighid, inspire my voice. Then you take the third candle with the base to your forehead, anoint it, and say, Brighid, inspire my mind. Okay. Then you set the 3 candles in your sacred space and you light the wicks. Offer a personal prayer to Brighid for the inspiration you want to receive. So this is the moment where you get to ask her what you want to bring into your life. You want to give birth to something into your life. You want to be inspired to start your own business. If you want to be inspired to write a book, or you want to be inspired to start a family and you need that inspiration to get yourself going, whatever you feel that she can help you kickstart, this is the moment to say that prayer. When the candles have burned down completely, be sure to make an offering for the inspiration even before it arrives. Okay, so the concept here is you make this petition to the goddess, and I want you to feel like she already gave it to you, right? Because one of the most beautiful concepts of the law of attraction, right? And of course, when we do these types of rituals, we are incorporating the law of attraction with the goddess. We want to know that this already happened for us. So we're not just sitting there waiting for it to happen sometime in the future. We are connecting to her and we are saying, thank you for already giving me this beautiful inspiration. I'm grateful because I know that this will take place. I know that this is already happening for me. So I thank you. That is the kind of energy that you want to impart. So once you do this, make sure that you give her an offering of thank you. So some ideas for offerings are, you can offer her some tea. If you can have blackberry tea, that would be amazing, but any kind of tea would be good. Biscuits, cookies, milk, honey, these are all sacred to her. Butter is sacred to her as well, and a mug of beer. Okay, beer is very sacred to her. Beer, ale, These are all good choices, okay? You could even dedicate a monetary portion of your success to a charity or to someone in need. So if you are asking her for inspiration to start a business, if you're asking her for inspiration for a job, like you want to be able to make sure that you get the right job and you want to be inspired to how to make that happen, and she does this for you, so this would be a good way of giving back, right? Of giving an offering to a charity or someone in need, and you do it in the name of Brighid. This ritual, I got it from a really good book by Courtney Weber called Brighid, and she's a great author. She writes books on different goddesses, and her book, Brighid, is a beautiful book. It's a book that's very steeped in the lore of Brighid, and has a lot of rituals and inspiration that's very beautiful. I strongly recommend this book. If you can go to the next slide for me. So if you want more goddess information, you can come to the Red Tent Goddess Academy's Priestess Program. We run this program the second and fourth Saturday of every month from 11 to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard. To register, this is how you register at Red Tent Goddess, redtentgoddess.com/academy. And if you'd like to take a free class, you can use the coupon Goddess Girls. And that way you get to see what the class is like and see if this is something that you would like to be a part of. I just want to mention this month we're doing Egyptian goddesses. So that would be this coming Saturday will be our first class of the month, and we're going to cover the Egyptian pantheon, and we're going to cover goddesses like Nephthys, Isis, Sekhmet, Hathor, Mat, and Bast. So and Nut. I'm sorry. So these are some of the goddesses that we're covering. So if you like Egyptian goddesses and the concept of discovering the Egyptian pantheon, so this is a beautiful class you can take. And if you can go to the next, is there one more slide? I forgot if we have one more slide. I think that's it. Oh, and then thank you for coming to Red Tent Goddess, first ever goddess connection. And so the divine in me honors the divine in you. If you can stop sharing for me a second, Marlu. Thank you. So that's a little introduction to Brighid, who Brighid is. Here I have some samples of the candles. I wasn't able to get votives. I got the tea lights. Votives would be fantastic. So the concept is to put one in your heart, and then a second one in your throat, right? And then the third one to your forehead, and then say the words of connection. I want to show you, this is my Brighid oil. So this is an oil that I had purchased that it has, as a matter of fact, it has cinnamon in it. And it has also blackberry, a little bit of blackberry in it, and a little bit of lavender. So it's really, smells beautiful. It smells kind of berry-like. So this is a great oil to use, but you can use lavender. You cannot go wrong with lavender essential oil. Thank you, Marlu. So that's lavender essential oil. That's a great one to use. And what you want to do is, you want to stroke the wick. You mix together the oil and the cinnamon, and you want to start with the wick, right? And then go on to the candle. If I had a votive, I would show you, but oh, Marlu has a little, kind of like a chime candle, a little bit bigger than a chime candle, so you could see. So you want to spread the oil from the wick down, right? Spread it as much as you can so it anoints with the energy of Brighid. So that's the concept, right? And then you light your candles and you say your prayer and you connect to her and you ask her for whatever it is that you want inspiration. The concept of the 3 candles is to bless the heart, bless the throat, and bless the head. So that's a way to connect with her deeper, right? Because you want to have the goddess blessing, especially in these 3 chakras, okay? And that helps you manifest what you want to bring into your life a little more. I also wanted to show you, this is a little spray that I had done. I ordered it from a lady that makes sacred sprays to the goddess, and it smells incredible. So you want to infuse yourself with the energy of Brighid as much as you can. You can even make your own using lavender, blackberry, honey, cinnamon, and she has so many different beautiful flowers and herbs that you can use. Rosemary is another good one, and this is a great thing to use to connect to the goddess. So I know I've talked for almost an hour straight. I want to give you guys an opportunity if you have any questions, if you have anything you want to share about the goddess, if you have anything that maybe I haven't covered and you're curious about. Anybody has any questions? I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to ask. Trying to see all your faces. Did everybody understand how to connect with Brighid, how to work with her? Yes? Okay. Has anybody worked with Brighid before? I'm curious. Is this your first introduction to Brighid, or are you familiar with her in any way?
I've worked with her a little bit, very passively, but not, I worked more a little bit with the Moringan. So like a little association with Bridget there too, with the moon. But this is beautiful. Thank you so much, Lisette. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Claudia and Maria.
You're welcome. So Melanie's familiar, but not really worked with her. So the Morrigan is another amazing goddess. The Morrigan's energy, I work with the Morrigan as well. She's one of my goddesses as well. The Morrigan is, her energy is more intense. That's probably the best way to, Melanie's like, you know, that's my girl. Yeah, that's Melanie's goddess. She's amazing. She's very intense, okay? And the thing with the Morrigan is extremely protective, okay? Very protective. Brighid is very protective as well. It's just a little bit different in the sense that, you know, her energies are a little different one from the other. Brighid is a more subtle goddess, and the Morrigan is a little more intense. It's a little, her energy is, they're both very beautiful. They're just a little different in the way that their energy comes across. I want to mention also that we have an event tonight, which is the new moon. And I'm going to let Claudia talk a little bit so she can tell you a little bit about the new moon, which is in a couple minutes. So are you, Claudia? I'm sorry. I'm trying to see you.
I'm right here.
Oh, okay, perfect. Sorry. I couldn't see you on my screen.
Before we move on to the new moon, would you like to let them know about the priestessing program? And then I can just post the link for the wait list, and then we can talk about the new moon.
Absolutely. So we have a Goddess Academy, right? And our Goddess Academy has, once again, like I mentioned, it has the Enchantress program and it has the Priestess program. So the Priestess program is just like, Jaslyn just posted a way to connect to the Goddess Academy. Thank you, Jaslyn. She posted, you can see it in the chat. So the Priestess program is a program we put together where we connect to, the way that we have it set up is every month we cover a pantheon of goddesses, right? So I gave you a little brief preview of Brighid, but we had a whole Celtic pantheon where we talked about the Morrigan, Brighid, Cerridwen, and all the different goddesses that make up the Celtic pantheon. And every month we take a deep dive into a different pantheon. And I teach you in the academy, not just about the goddesses, but about what it is to be a priestess, how to be a priestess, and how to use the skills that you learn as a priestess, not only in your everyday life, but how to build a business with it, how to help other people, use your priestessing skills to do ceremonies, and when I mean ceremonies, I mean like hand fastings. I mean like how to go deeper into connecting with people that are dying, how to do like ceremonies for women's first period, right? Like menarche ceremonies, crone ceremonies when you are reaching your menopausal state. In other words, different types of ceremonies. I talk about how to conduct your astral temple, how to do rituals to different goddesses, and basically how to live a spiritual life dedicated to the goddess in all her ways, in all her different aspects. And I teach you about divination and how to do tarot readings, how to do rune readings, different kinds of readings and different kinds of divination that you can do that enriches your life and it deepens your connection to the goddess as well. So we cover all of that in the priestess program. And then we also have an enchantress program, which Marlu is the head enchantress. And Marlu, I don't know if you want to tell them briefly about the enchantress so they know a little bit of both.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So the Enchantress program is more intellectual. We work with affirmations, journaling, meditation, breath work, and we talk about things like this. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about acupressure. We're going to talk about aura and protection of the aura. We've talked about light working. We've talked about angels, the archangels, the hierarchy, and how to communicate with them. So it's more about how we can create our lifestyle, a spiritual lifestyle for ourselves, and then bring it out to our family and our community. And we talked about pendulum use, and we also have divination. We talk about past life regressions and Akashic records and lots of beautiful stuff. We're going to talk about shamanic tools in 2 weeks that we can use for our coaching programs, because a lot of them, my enchantresses are coaches too. So how they can bring that into their businesses. And any questions? Inner child work.
Yeah, inner child work, shadow work. So it's a little bit of everything that will start you on a spiritual path, if that makes sense.
And bring you deeper in your business also.
Absolutely. So those are the two aspects of our academy. We have the priestess side and the enchantress side. And then a lot of our girls are in both programs. So we have a beautiful combination of both. And then of course, we've got our new moon circles, our full moon circles. And thank you, Marlu. Yes, they're 13-month programs. So they're 13 months, in other words. So a year and 1 month for both programs. And we're going to be starting a new cycle soon. So we're now just, gathering names of ladies that would like to join, that are interested, and then we're going to put together a new cycle. So we started this in April, and so we will end this next year, but then we have another group that's going to be starting relatively soon. And then if you are interested in trying it out, we have that. So Claudia posted there's a Red Tent Academy waitlist. So we have a little link that you can click and you can put on the wait list if you're interested in learning, more, if you're interested in finding out more about the program. And we have a code that you can take a class for free if you want to just sample it and have an idea of what it's like and see if it's something that you would like to go deeper into. So we have that too for both, right, Marlu? We have it for the enchantress and also for the priestess for both. So.
It's the same for either one, and you can try both. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So just so you know, that's an option for you guys, for those that are not familiar. And do you want to talk a little bit about, we have a new moon circle coming up at 7?
Yes, sorry, there's a little noise. There's some guests in the house. Yes, some of you are coming. I know Maria and Nelly are going to be joining me and the new moon, so I'm looking forward to that. Brooke, if you're interested, I know there is, you are, yes, okay, excellent. I think Jaslyn posted the link. I'm going to put the code, first event always free, so you can use that code at checkout. And I believe that's it. So you can use that code at checkout, and then you can join us at 7. So it'll be in just 15 minutes. So tonight, the new moon, we're going to be honoring the new moon in Libra, which peaks tomorrow morning. So we are in the perfect phase right in between. And what is the new moon? It's the beginning of the lunar calendar. So we'll have an opportunity to reflect on the past month. We're going to be honoring the goddess Lakshmi for this new moon. And Liz said it's going to be guiding us through a powerful release and call forth, excuse me, my phone, in calling in ritual with the goddess Lakshmi that I highly recommend. We're going to be also doing some practices, some meditation, releases. It's just a perfect way to begin the month and to honor the new month. So that is happening in just a few minutes. So we'll take a break, 15-minute break between this call and the next, and just gather a candle, gather sage or Palo Santo, anything that you use to smudge and to create sacred space, and bring your journal, your pen, and if you want to make your favorite tea, you can do that, so you can have the tea.
And I just want to mention before we end is that next month we're going to, like today we did the connection to Bridget. Next month we're connecting to Lakshmi. Next month is a sacred holiday for Lakshmi, which is Diwali, which is the festival of lights. So we're going to talk about Lakshmi and Diwali, and we're going to do a little ritual for Lakshmi. So she's the goddess we're going to focus on for next month's circle. So I hope to see you ladies so we can honor Lakshmi.
You mean for the connection circle, just like
for the
this
connection
one?
circle?
Okay.
Yes, just like this one. Sorry, yes, for the connection circle, just like this one. We're going to be honoring Lakshmi and Diwali, which is the festival of lights, which is next month, as a matter of fact. It falls on the first day of Diwali, so it's like perfect. So I wanted to mention that. Okay, and then today we also honor Lakshmi, so we get a lot of Lakshmi here.
Yes.
So we get an opportunity to get to know Lakshmi.
Yes, we do. Brooke, I think I only sent you the code, the Zoom for this one. So I can just to double check, I just checked the email I sent you. So I'll send you another email with the next Zoom, and you can join us next month. I think this was great. What do you girls think? Did you like the Goddess Connection? Yes, it was amazing. Thank you, Lisette. Thank you.
You're
thank
welcome.
You. It was beautiful.
You're welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yes, thank you so much. So ladies, we'll see you in 15 minutes at 7 p.m. on a different Zoom link, okay?
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you for coming. Thank you, everybody.
Coming, everyone.
Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisette.